Review of helping verbs, modal and semimodal verbs. A verb phrase is made up of a main verb and one or more helping verbs. The main verb in the sentence tells what the subject does or is. Helping verbs work with the main verbs to add meaning to them. Helping verbs allow us to be more specific. They allow us to tell if something is likely to happen or if it should happen. Common helping verbs, forms of be, is, am, was, are, were, be, been. Forms of do, does, did. Forms of have, has, have, had. And others, may, might, must, can, could, should, shall, would, will. We now know that the last row of helping verbs are called modals or modal verbs. Modals, may, might, must, can, could, should, shall, would, will. The rules for modals are: use the modal verb as it is. Don't add ed, s, or ing. Don't use to after a modal, except for have to or ought to. If you have to use a modal in a negative form, use not after the verb. You can make a contraction. Some verbs are called semimodal verbs because they function in much the same way as modal verbs. However, they are different from modal verbs because they sometimes behave more like typical verbs. Some change to agree with their subjects, some change tense, and some can be combined with verbs like be, have, and do. These verbs are need, dare, used to, have to, and ought to. Modal and semimodal verbs are used to show that the action is possible, necessary, or certain, showing ability, asking permission, or making requests. Modal verbs are used to indicate likelihood, ability, advice, permission, habits, and obligation. Let's look at some examples of sentences. You can do it. He needs to work. They ought to quit. Would you say yes if I asked? It will happen. She has to sing. Do you think I should stay? I might make it to the party. It must be Groundhog Day. We used to sing every day. Can you bring me some food? Dare he try it? We have to go now. Now it is your turn. Show what you learned by completing the Google form.